Okay, so Lando Norris has just dominated the Dutch Grand Prix. I mean, Jack, well, does this bode well for the rest of the season? Are we going to see sort of a Max Verstappen domination-esque for Lando Norris?
For the rest of the season, no. I
You
don't
don't think so?
think so. I don't think that will happen. Um, I don't know. It appeared to me that it was more Lando Norris than the car that gave him that gap because Piastri, as we saw, couldn't make any headway in on Charles, in on George, in on Max. So even when he did get in clean air, he didn't really make any sort of move away. So I think it was more down to Lando Norris, as we saw in the qualifying. He blitzed it, and I think the race he blitzed that as well. So it was more of a Lando Norris, and I don't think we'll have that sort of margin again.
No, and it's quite scary, actually, because if it was the McLaren, you could then possibly say, well, all right, if it's the McLaren, Lando Norris maybe still has an error in him here or there. Maybe they won't be as strong at other circuits. But if that is Lando Norris that's extracted that extra pace to give him a 22-second lead, I don't know. That scares me a bit because it could be long the second half of the season. It really could.
Well, I don't think it was all Lando. I think it is an element of the car, and I do think the McLaren is the best car.
Yes, it is the best car.
I think it is. I don't think it's 22 seconds clear the best car, but it is the best car. And I do think circuit dependent, you'll see them closer or further ahead from now on.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go really from being in and amongst the pack. The only real outlier in the last few races before the summer break was Hungary, where they were clear. Other than that, it was in and amongst the Red Bull and Mercedes. So you can't go from being in and amongst the Red Bull and Mercedes and the Mercedes winning to then being 22 seconds clear in a 3-week break where you can't develop the car.
All I'll say about that is I think it's very much... I see where you're coming from, but also I'd like to point out that the McLaren was the quickest at, especially Silverstone it was. Spa, it was probably the Red Bull, but at Silverstone, it was the McLaren.
Was the McLaren the quickest at Silverstone?
Yes, it was, and if we remember, McLaren were on for a 1-2. In consistent conditions, obviously with the wet and it from going from dry to... Hold on a sec. No. All I'm saying is that consistent conditions, the McLaren was the quickest car. Oscar and Lando were on for a 1-2. It was only the changeable conditions that brought the Mercedes into it. Lando Norris could have easily won that race. If he went to the mediums at the end, he could have caught Lewis Hamilton, and he could have passed Lewis Hamilton.
Well,
in Spa's the only track where I felt like the Red Bull was clear, but because Max started so low down, it was never possible for him to end up winning that race. But if Max started on pole, that Red Bull was gone. Apart from that, I think McLaren has been very much the quickest car everywhere we've gone. It's just been circumstantial. We speak about Lando Norris, and we speak about, obviously, a big part of the criticism he's received has been the races where he hasn't been able to convert a win, possibly like in Canada, like in Silverstone, where he was clearly the quickest for a big majority of the race, but has ended up either fumbling the strategy or making a mistake, or there's been these moments. So I think, generally, the McLaren is the quickest outright everywhere, apart from Belgium.
No, I think the McLaren is the quickest. I disagree with you saying McLaren was outright clear at Silverstone.
Not outright clear, but they were clearly the quickest car.
Mercedes, dry conditions in qualifying, beat the McLarens, both of them.
Yep.
Mercedes in the wet were clear. It's only when it started coming down a bit more, the McLaren was kind of on the tyres. Mercedes chose the right time. But in the dry, Hamilton outdid Lando Norris. Again, both on the softs. both on the exact same tyres, the same life. The Mercedes was clear of the McLaren. The Mercedes was.
Yes, he was
They were
quicker.
faster in the race. Yes, some circumstances of interchangeable conditions did come into it and calling the right call or the wrong call. That's always going to come into it. But on straight out, Lewis and Lando both had the exact same tyres for the same amount of laps. Lewis made the call the lap earlier. Lando was on the softs a lap fresher than Lewis's softs. Wasn't anywhere near Lewis. The Mercedes was just as, if not maybe a little bit faster at Silverstone than the McLaren.
I don't know. I think it was too interchangeable to really tell, but from what I saw, I was under the firm belief that the McLaren was the quickest car.
In dry conditions, the Mercedes was better.
Well, either way, McLaren was, it wasn't too far away, even if it was on pace, clearly, because they were very close throughout the whole race. But anyway, McLaren is the quickest car. It is the quickest car.
Well, yeah,
and it's the quickest car everywhere we go, other than, from what I've seen, very obviously Belgium, which the Red Bull was. Well, I don't know if it was the Red Bull or just Max, but one of them was awfully down the road. So
no, it was Max. It was Max in Belgium, and I think the McLaren is consistently top, or definitely top 2 at every track. Consistently. And that's the difference. Red Bull sometimes are the 3rd quickest. Mercedes are sometimes the 3rd quickest. McLaren, you can bet your hat on them being the quickest, or if they are 2nd quickest, it's by like less than a 10th. So McLaren do have the best car.
They do.
Hands down.
So I very much do believe we could see Lando Norris dominance. I can't,
I don't see a 22-second dominance. I can see a lot of wins.
Not a 22-second dominance. I can see a Lando Norris dominance.
I can see a lot
if
of
you know
the
what
remaining
I mean.
races be at least another 5 Lando wins.
I can see a lot of wins is what I mean. It won't be 22 seconds. You can see there being a lot of wins for McLaren, especially Lando Norris.
I mean, the only thing is, do McLaren still have a little bit of naivety?
Yes, I mean they're a young team, aren't they? They are.
They're an experienced team, but they're a young bunch.
They're not an experienced team at all, because most of the people that worked there when they were winning are not there anymore.
They're a young bunch in a team that is well established. They've got a crew that aren't used to winning.
Yes, they don't. None of them. Andrea Stella, Zach Brown, Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, probably most of the technical staff, most of the engineers probably have never won a championship before. So it is a young team, and I mean we saw it in Zandvoort. We saw them coming onto the radio. It's some weird messages to Lando, like, "Oh, Lando, who are we racing?" It's like, what do you mean? Like, surely that's your job to know that. You've got all the data. You know who we're racing, and Lando had to tell them. Like, I don't know. It's just like it. Obviously, they won the race, and it seems so insignificant now. But during the race, radio messages like that just seem a little bit confusing to me. And I think there is a bit of naivety there, but I do think we could see Lando dominance. One thing I will say, though, about Lando Norris, and one thing that's really annoying me is I think this Zandvoort should have shut all the haters down, because Zandvoort should have shut all the haters down for Lando Norris, because Lando showed why he is held in the highest regard. Everyone's saying, "Oh, Oscar Piastri's got the edge over Lando. Lando's never going to be a champion." You guys can sit down now, because he's just proven all of you wrong. 22 seconds and a pole lap that was absolutely ridiculous. 4/10 from the rest of the field. Yeah, no, please sit down.
Look, what he's done this weekend is remarkable, and it is a champion's worthy drive. It is. Without doubt, this one race is. He's now got to back it up. To be a champion, you have to do that sort of drive many times in a season. We've seen it with Max. We've seen it with Lewis. We've seen it with many other drivers. He's now got to back it up because the first half of the season, he's had moments where he could have done that already, and he hasn't. He's now got to back it up. Now, I'm a firm believer Lando Norris is going to be a world champion. I'm a firm believer he's top 3 drivers on the grid. But I want to see him now back it up to shut them down, because you can still have doubt. That's a one race in the season of 24. Do it more.
And I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will back it up. And this is...
I hope he does back it up. I do hope he does.
The form that he's on right now is
one
remarkably...
Race.
No, but I mean... If that doesn't give him a boost of confidence for Monza, I don't know what will.
It should do. It should do. And I would like to see what he does in Monza now. Because if he can back up what he's done in Zandvoort in Monza, okay, now we can start being like, pipe down.
Yeah, but the reason I'm saying pipe down now is because we've come off...
I mean, we can pipe down about the Oscar-Lando comparisons. Oscar's better than Lando. Let's pipe down about that.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's not needed. Lando is clear of Oscar right now. And yes, you can say Oscar's, 4 years less experience, whatever. Lando Norris is a champion for the future. He is. Hands down. Let's see if he can back it up and make what we're saying, Lando Norris is a champion for the future, a realistic term now.
And I think he will. Monza's going to be interesting. We're going to do the Monza preview this week. So make sure to tune in for that. Thursday. But, yeah, I mean, without spoiling too much of the predictions, will Lando Norris go on to repeat his success at Zandvoort in Monza?
I'm not going to answer.
All right, well, we'll have to wait till Thursday.
Got to wait till Thursday for that one.
Tune in then and we'll discuss.